Right. Are we online? Hi, guys. Good evening. My name is Joshua Levy. Thank you very much for joining in to my live stream. This is like the first time I'm doing it. Can you please type something if you can see me? Can everybody type something if you can see me and if you can all hear me? Can you please type it so I know and I understand? I'm waiting for your feedback and for your text. Um, If anybody can hear me and see me, can you please text me so then we know that everything is okay? I can see somebody is typing something. Yes, we all can hear you well. Excellent. All right, guys. So my name is Joshua Levy. Thank you very much for joining in. I'm actually from the UK. I'm living in Moscow, and it's very nice to meet with you all. And I hope that we can learn something from this workshop. So let's go to the first slide. I wanted to basically give you a brief introduction about the TOEFL exam. So the TOEFL exam is basically a test of English language. This is on slide 2. It's a test of English language, which is actually done on a laptop or on a PC, and it's being used for testing people and to get admission. I mean, across a lot of universities, not only in the US but also in the UK, and New Zealand, and across EU and Asia. But I mean, since it's actually from the US, it's mainly used for admissions within the US universities. If you wanted to take the TOEFL exam, you can go to any examination center here in Russia, and you can sit for that exam. There have been some changes since the last time. I think since the beginning of 2019, there are some changes. So this part of the workshop is going to be looking at the changes which have been done in the TOEFL exam since 2019, happening up till now. So let's go to slide 3. And so basically, TOEFL stands for Test of English as a Foreign Language. There are 4 major skills which are tested here. This is the reading skill, the writing skill, listening and speaking skill. Each of them has a mark for 30, with a total mark of 120. Previously, I think you had about 3.5 hours, or a little bit more than 3 hours. But in the new format of the exam, happening since 2019, you only get 3 hours only, which is approximately 180 minutes, and from a score of 120. Now, many of you have asked me, and I have this request from many of my own people who I teach. What is a pass or a fail? There is no such thing as a pass or a fail. You only get a score. You actually get an overall score now, and not an individual detailed score as you were actually getting before 2019. Since then, you just get your my best score, and that's what you get. In my experience, if you wanted to go to a top 10 or a top 15 university, I think you at least have to get about 85 to about 100. 3 of my students who actually sat for the TOEFL exam actually got 106, which is a really good score, and I would recommend that everybody actually get that, so that you are sure that you can apply to the top class place at the educational institution where you want to go. All right, let's go to the slide 4. We will actually begin to look at what the different skills which are needed. We will be going into reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and then we will see what happens. So let's go to the reading format and skills on slide 4. And basically, the overview is that you'll be asking, the exam will be asking you things on which are basically on like scientific matters. So nothing to do with everyday language. It will be on a scientific matter. It will be which is expected for you to know. And it will be based on science, technology, mathematics, geology, something like that. The most important thing I think you should realize is that you are not expected to know the topics. So all the information in the text and in the reading paragraph will be there, and you should be able to understand the test and to understand the text also, which is handed over to you. But in my recommendation, if you can really read something like the New Scientist or something with sciences on an everyday basis, I think that should be able to give you a very good indication of what is expected. You will be having 3 to 4 reading passages, and then in that you'll be having 10 extra questions which will actually follow. The time recommendation, maximum time allowed is from 52 to 54 minutes to 74 minutes, 72, sorry, uh, minutes. But I would recommend about 60 to 65 minutes as a background time for you to answer all of those questions. Uh, in terms of the scoring, you only get a best score, but in my recommendation, I think from 22 to 30 is a high score, obviously, and 15 to 21 could be an intermediate score, and a lower score would be 0 to 14. In TOEFL, I think they have a very low score. I think it's from 0 to 5, but for me, that's low anyway. Different types of things are going to be asked. You will be asked on. So if you look at the types, some of the questions would be lacking in details. Some of them may have an incorrect or a missing vocabulary. So you have to actually fill in the blanks or fill in the words, or some of the words may have the wrong spelling. They may be asking for your opinion, or they may be asking like, what do you think that the reader or the author was asking for this? So they were asking for the opinion. It could be that, or like it could be like something like, what do you think about this? And you'll be having some extra choices, and you have to mark that. The purpose and the paraphrasing. So I think these are some of the areas where they'll be asking you the questions on. So please do read the text very carefully. And some of them will be asking, they may be having spaces, so you have to insert the text. In terms of the skills assessed, I think there are 3 major skills which are being assessed here. First of all is paraphrasing. You must know how to do paraphrasing. I think we'll be explaining that. I will be actually going to that section in a short while. Skimming and scanning, that also will be discussed as we go later on in the presentation, and having the gist. So you must understand the gist. You must get the main idea of each of the text. In my opinion, if people are aiming for a lower score, if you're aiming for 82 or under, it is better for you to read all the texts and then answer the question. But in this case, you have a much better chance to get an easy question. But the other problem could be that you may not have the time if you'll be reading all the passages, because the time is quite limited. So, but most importantly, I think you should be making notes. This is really important. You don't have to write everything down, but make sure you write something down, at least some facts and figures, or something which you may find interesting. If you're aiming for a score above 85, above 100, I think it's very important that you do read all the questions. And then look at the paragraph text, because I think if you look at the questions, you will have an understanding of what is expected of you and what they are asking you. So you may find it that you may save a lot of time because you're actually looking for the exact details rather than actually trying to read through the text, and then you go back to the question, and then you actually go back to the text, and you'll be spending more time like that. I think it's better if you're aiming for a higher score, you do read the questions, and then you understand what is being expected of you. So there are 3 major skills again. It's known as paraphrasing, skimming and scanning, and the gist. So let's go to slide number 5. This is an example which I just gave from a website. I think it's better for people who are not doing the exam, or who are doing the exam for the first time, to understand what actually it looks like. So here we have a text where it's discussing about opportunists and all the competitors. It's basically telling you the information about who they are, what they do, things like that. And I think the amount of the text will be about 150 to 200 words, maybe in some cases, maybe 250 words length of text. So let's go to this slide 6. And here you may see there are different types of things asked. So if you look at the first question, is asking for the words. So it's asking for the vocabulary here. It's asking for the meaning, which has, like, if you look at the word and you have to choose 4 examples, which almost have the same meaning as the word handed over in the first question. The second questions also mean that. So if it says none in the passage, it refers to what. So I think you must have an understanding. You read the text and then understand what the none means. Paragraph 1 explains the concept. Here is asking for your opinion. It's asking for the opinion what the author means. So make sure that you are reading the text and understand and to take out this information while you're reading the text. If you look at number 4, 5, and 6, again, they are of the similar kind of things. Let's go to slide number 7. And here again, it's asking for different types of words and asking you to make the right answer. If you look at most of the questions could be on an MCQ basis. Some of them you have to add the words in them. So this is not these are not all the questions. So they are like some of the questions I basically took a screenshot and I added it on the slide. Right. If you go to slide number 8, here is telling you, different types of options which are given on the left, and then you need to put them in the right box. Do they go into an opportunist box, or do they go to the other box? So I think you should have a very good understanding of where the words go. So don't attempt this if you are at a lower intermediate level. Sit for the exam if you are at least an intermediate or higher. So that will make you more easy. It'll be easier for you to actually do this exam and to understand the meaning of the text and like to put them in the right places. Right, and let's go to the number 9, which is the most important thing, is the reading skills. So what skills are needed for you to successfully pass the reading section of the TOEFL exam? So what is a gist? So many people ask me this question, like, what is a gist? What's an overall summary? What do you mean by that? I think the gist, in my opinion, is to get the main idea, is to actually get the key idea of the text. So you must read the question, you must read the passage, and in the passage you must read about the first and the last paragraph, understand the meaning of the overall text, and then look at the key meaning of what the author is trying to say. What is he trying to imply? And that could be the key meaning of the text. And once you get that, then you know that you have actually got the key idea, and you've got the gist. So if we just have a look at the slide, so this is the main key idea of the passage of text, which is the core theme on which the entire text is based, and the author essentially expands on that. So, once you get this idea, the whole text is just an expansion of the core theme. And then how do you do it? So if you look at the passage, you must read through A to B. So look at all the passage, read everything down, look at the first paragraph and the last paragraph, identify the topic sentences, so the topic sentences will be listed inside the question and at the beginning. So that's the topic which is needed, and then you are looking for that. And then you need to put the key points. Once you identify some of the key points which are mentioned in the text, then you make your own notes in your own words, and that's basically is the gist. Looking for supporting information. So, anything which is adding information to your idea, adding any information to your gist, that's the extra information which is helping, which is the supporting idea. So let's have a look at the example here. It says ancient Egyptians believed that Horus was a good and wise king. He was the first pharaoh. He spread knowledge to the parts of the world, while his wife Isis ruled Egypt in his place. So you see here, the most important thing is that if you look at the gist, we don't have to write everything down. We just have to get the key idea, which was this is about an ancient Egypt. It's about something happening a long time ago. It's in the past. Name of the pharaoh, his wife, and she ruled after his death. That's it. That's all we wanted to know. That's the key idea, and the rest the author is just expanding on that. If everybody is okay with that, understanding so far, can you please type something so I know that everything is okay? Um, just like waiting for some people to respond. Um, is everything okay right now? Can you all hear me? Is my speed okay? Can you read everything? If yes, can you please type something? So I understand that you. Hello? Ah, okay. 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 All right, cool. All right, okay. So let's just go next. Let's go to the other side and to the other slides. Let's go to number 10, and that's basically will tell you the what's the main idea, what is the topic sentence, and what is an implied skill, and what is a stated idea. So if you look at the main idea has two parts. The one which is explicitly mentioned in the text, and the other one is not explicitly mentioned, is kind of implied. So you like you need to get it out, and you need to understand it is already assumed that this has the same meaning. So if you read at the beginning, it says, I mean, a stated main idea is a sentence found in the reading passage in which the topic and the main point or the points about the topic are explicitly mentioned. So they are in the topic, whereas an implied main idea means the author has chosen not to use a statement in the selection of passage to tell the reader. So it is assumed. The most important thing is it is implied, it is assumed, you have to understand it yourself. Um, there will be no hints. There may be hints given, but it will not be explicit. You need to understand it by yourself, and you need to get the meaning out and extract that implied meaning in order for you to get the main idea. Right, so let's go to slide number 11. And here it's basically it's telling you what are the steps you do to extract the main idea. So if you look at the topic, read the topic and what is the topic about the passage. Look at the points made about this topic, what points the writer is trying to prove or make. Again, here you need to think, is the idea explicitly mentioned, or is it not implicitly, or it has been shown implicitly? Does that statement represent the most important thing the writer is saying about the topic? So I've actually given a very good example here. If you read that example, it's just an example, 4 or 5 lines of text, and and as a homework for all of you, you can do this exercise to read the text and then understand what is the topic of the passage, what points the author is trying to make, trying to get extra details, and what are the statements and the most important thing the writer is trying to say on that particular topic. Let's go to slide number 12. So let's go down to the basics of what is a paraphrasing. So paraphrasing is something which you put in your own words. I think a lot of people have this problem, and I think this is something which everybody has a problem with. Paraphrasing is trying to put something in your own words, not actually copying down the sentence, not saying the sentence directly, but taking the main meaning out, and then you say it in your own words, while the meaning of the sentence or the meaning of the passage of what you're trying to paraphrase should not change. This is the most important thing. Do not change the meaning, because if you change the meaning by saying something in a different way, then that's basically not the point. The objective should be that you want to say something in your own words from the main text which was handed over to you, but you don't change the meaning. So as long as you can do that, then you've done the paraphrasing. And in order for you to do that, you should read the passage very carefully. and then decide on the main ideas. Again, that's trying to go back to the gist, trying to get the main idea of what the author is saying. Highlight the most important keywords and phrases. So if you look at the text, and if you, for example, if you say like, I went home yesterday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and then I had something to eat. So you see that you have a time there, and you have the exact time at 4 p.m. You went home yesterday, and then what did you eat? So you have something on that. You have some details on that. If I was you, I will be like writing some notes down on a piece of paper, at least just to make some, just to get the idea of what could be the possible gist would be, and then you get the main idea, and then you do the paraphrasing, and then you write it in your own words. Um, so let's go again, if this time we're doing the paraphrasing from the same example, and here the paraphrase text is that he was the first pharaoh. He spread knowledge. This is something extra. So in the gist we didn't have this, but in the paraphrasing we do have it. So it's slightly expanded version of the gist basically, and the queen was his wife, and she ruled after when he was gone. So you see, here we haven't changed the meaning. It is the same meaning is happening. It is something in past. It is about two people, what they did, and then we had the idea about the gist. It was a very small piece of text, and now we have something which is more expanded from the gist, and that is how we do the paraphrasing. You have expanded slightly something from the main idea, and then you've written it down. So in the exam, paraphrasing is something which is very important. This is some of the this is one skill, I think. Writing the understanding the gist, understand the overall meaning, understanding how to do paraphrasing. These are three things which are being used throughout the exam. It's not only in the reading section, it is in listening, writing, and speaking. So it's not just that you will be doing everything only for reading, and then you have something absolutely different for speaking or for the writing. All the skills are really combined. So you can't just explicitly do reading and then explicitly do, you have a skill for like writing, or you have an explicit skill for speaking. No, this is not how it works. Everything works together. So all the skills are being used together. They are just only tested in a different way, but the skills are the same. So this is something you really need to remember. And if I were you, I would really begin to improve your skills, to actually get the understanding of how to improve those three things. Paraphrasing, making the gist, having the main idea, trying to get the overall meaning, extracting for details, listening for details, and trying to get that information out, which is going to really help you for the exam when you'll be sitting. So let's go to slide number 13. And here, another one of the most important skills which I mentioned is skimming. What is skimming? Is basically, it is done really fast, and this is done to get the overall idea. So when you want to skim something, you do it in order for you to get the overall picture. So you have the broad overall idea. So you have one huge big idea of the overall text, and then you have the main idea which is inside that big ball. So think about the ball, right? You have a text here like this, and you want to make the ball on top of it. You want to make the whole ball so that the ball is completely around the text, and the text is inside the ball. You want to get the full picture of what the text means, and this is when you do when you will use your skill for doing the skimming. So how do you skim the text? You don't read everything, basically. You read some parts of the text. You read the first and last sentences, not paragraph, but sentences of the paragraph. The first and the last one. You read the introduction and the summary, which is the beginning and the end, and you read some examples. So with this, you should be able to get the overall meaning. Now, if I were you, I would go online, take up anything, like go to BBC News, go to CNN, go to anything, go to some I think at the end of the PowerPoint presentation I've got links in where you can go and have a read through it. But in any case, you can go online and read any piece of text. Okay, in that text, read the first paragraph, and in the last paragraph you have the first two, top and bottom. Read the first sentence, last sentence, read some examples. Don't read everything which is in the middle, and you should be able to get a background of what that text means. Effectively, you're trying to skim and get the overall picture here. This is really helpful if you want to, if you will be doing the integrated task. And this is really important because in integrated task, you have to read and also you have to listen. And this is really important because when you will when you will actually do the listening task, when you will do the writing task, some of them have got an integrated task, which effectively means you're reading something, and then there is a discussion on the reading bit. Effectively, it's an extension of the topic. So if you don't actually get the main idea, if you don't understand the overall meaning, you will have a lot of problem in understanding the overall theme of the text and the theme of the discussion. And then when you'll be writing it, you're just going to write wrong. So I think, in my opinion, get this done as soon as possible. Get into the habit of trying to get the overall idea, trying to know how to do the skimming. Any text can help you. If you go to BBC News, CNN, New York Times, any news story, any online scientific news websites, try to get that into the habit of doing it, and that's going to be very helpful for your exam preparation for TOEFL. Right. Okay. So let's go to slide number 14. Some of the sources I've mentioned here are something which I'm actually using it on an everyday basis. Science for new students. Here it's a website. I will open it up. So let's open it up right now. If you can open it with me, I can't see you guys, but if you can open it up with me, if you have the internet with you, if you have a laptop with you, if you open up the website, and you'll see there's a big dog on the left, you have a laundry tweaking on the right, and you have everything is about the COVID-19 happening all over the world at the moment. So if you look at the top left, it says COVID-19, when will it be safe to go out again? And here it's a pretty long text. It's a long paragraph. It's a long article. And this is an article which has a scientific meaning to it. So I would really recommend that you read this on an everyday basis, and that's going to help you to improve your reading skills. Let's go to the second website on my slide. We have the New Scientist there, which is on number 2. The New Scientist really helps you to understand what are the latest scientific developments and technologies which are happening all over the world. Another one, which is my favorite one, is the New York Times Science. Bearing in mind, New York Times is a pretty difficult newspaper to read. You must be at a pretty good. You must be having a pretty good level of English to read New York Times. You must be having at least B2 level of English, upper intermediate, kind of advanced, for you to get the overall idea of what the authors are saying. On the website. And New York Times Science is a personal favorite of mine. I'm using it on an everyday basis when I'm teaching people for TOEFL exam. Number 4 is the BBC Science and Environment. This is a pretty good source as well. It has slight slants on the news from the UK, obviously, and it tells you what are the scientific innovations happening all over the world. And I think if you wanted to get an understanding of what a UK English looks like and what a US English looks like, I would recommend you do them both. You look at the New York Times, in which you have a very strong emphasis on the US English, advanced English, and then you look at the BBC Science and Environment. The same level of English is being offered there. But this is from a UK perspective, so the English is slightly different there. It's used from a UK version and dialect. Science Direct is my personal favorite also. I've been using Science Direct for a long time. I would recommend that. And the Scientific American. I think some of the websites are free, most of them, and some of them you have to pay. I do recommend paying for that. That's going to really help you for passing your exam and to get the preparation which is needed for your TOEFL exam, especially for New York Times. I think right now they have a very good discount happening. I think it's $1 or something a week. And if you're an education student, I think you can get it for even half price. So I think it's definitely recommended that you do it. The Times is my personal favorite also. It's not mentioned here. The Times newspaper UK. That's also very nice. Scientific American and Science Direct also, I would really recommend that you do read it. So let's go to slide number 15. And it's basically, now we'll be going into the writing bit, and it tells you what are the things needed, what is the overview, the types of writing format and skills needed, and the skills needed on the right. So let's go to the overview. So we have two tasks, writing tasks, and you have approximately 50 minutes actually given. Approximate time for each question is 1 minute. No, that's wrong actually. It's not 1 minute. You have approximately 20 minutes to write it down. Score is from 0 to 30, and in my opinion, I think the higher one should be 24 to 30, intermediate 17 to 23, and lower one be 0 to 17. We have integrated tasks. So integrated task means you're using two skills at the same time. You're reading and listening, and you need to be incorporating both of the skills. What we mentioned previously, if you have the gist, having the overall idea, extracting details, and also like listening for key information. Most important, I think, here, in my opinion, is is how you write. So academic writing is very, very important here, and this is something I'll be going on. I will be discussing that, I think, in the next few slides. The most important thing here is to remember that you have to use the passive voice. This is really important. There should be no I, because this is not active, this is passive. So you should be using passive voice pretty much all the time, unless you want to really have a direct quotation from the speaker or from the professor. Please use speech marks. But in all the other cases, please don't use active voice. You need to use passive voice in here. You must use academic style of writing, and you must use punctuation. So you must have the right punctuation. They are looking at that. So like when you use big letters, when you use small letters, when do you use a comma, when do you use a full stop, are you using a speech mark, are you using speech marks or not? Vocabulary, spelling, opinions, trying to link the ideas to another. So you have one idea using having in the first paragraph and the second idea on the second paragraph, and then you're linking. So the linking aspect, what are the words you're using for linking it, what English language grammar and style you're using to link those two ideas is something they look at very carefully. And they're looking at at the overall comprehension skills. So as I said, you have two parts of reading and listening. It's an extension of the topic for listening when people are talking, or there's a pen, or there is somebody who's talking to and explaining the topic. You would have to listen to that as an extension of the reading bit. So it is using the comprehension. Must have a summary. So you must actually give a summary to give the overall meaning of what you're saying, and the paraphrasing, which we have discussed earlier, using the reading skills. Again, if you're not sure about what is paraphrasing, please go to the slide. I think it's slide, let's see, I think it was slide 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that is on slide number 12, and that will give you an overall indication of what is paraphrasing. And now let's go to an example. Go on slide number 16. This is a writing integrated task, and here you have exactly 20 minutes to plan and write your response. Your response will be judged on the basis of the quality of the writing. You should be writing 150 to 225 words. So here is my recommendation. Please do not write less than 150 words. If you do, you may be marked wrong. It is very important that you do write 150. If you're in my opinion, you should be aiming for about 180, about 180, 185, maximum 200. Don't go to 225. You may not know. You may go over it. So as a safe basis, I would say about 170 to 180. So you are in the zone, and you're basically safe in there. So if you look at the question here, it's giving you a long passage, and it's asking to summarize the points made in the lecture. Again, what is a summary? You have to get the overall picture, get the key idea, have the overall understanding, and then write it down. He said this, she said this, and we will going into more details on how you should be doing it. So let's go to the writing task format. This is the format used, which is on slide number 17. So this is I mean, I would really recommend something that you don't follow. You don't actually take literally everything from this, but this is a format. This is basically the template handed over to you so that you can have an overall understanding of what is expected. But you do have to apply this in your own way. You do have to make your own answers. Please do not memorize everything. You have to understand why it's happening and make sure you practice it. So let's go to the first one, is naming the source. Here you need to name the source. This person said that, the text says this, or in the discussion somebody was saying something. The video highlights so and so, so and so. You have to basically name the source. Secondly, you have to list the items, list what he was trying to say, some of the reasons he has actually given. Linking words are very important. So English language grammar, you got to go to the linking words. How do we link ideas together? And then you need to give examples. So for example, he said this, she said this, and then you give the overall example. You state the example of what he was saying. In this case, you can use direct speech. In this case, if you're using direct speech, again, do remember to use speech marks, open and close brackets and things like that. So you are safe. You're not. It's not your opinion. It's his opinion, and this is not something you are implying. Then you need to provide the speaker's opinion. So, what he believes in, what she said, what he was trying to imply. Again, here you have to get the main idea. Maybe he was trying to imply something. Maybe he said something explicitly. Again, you have to get this idea, to extract the idea from the text. You have to actually provide the contrast. So on the other hand, we will actually see the example and that would make sense. So then you go to number 5 is to provide the contrast. And then on the other hand, however, nevertheless, things like that. These are some of the words you can use to actually compare and contrast on the information. And then you need to provide a summary. And then in this case, you could say, to conclude, in summary, therefore, and then you say that, or you can say finally, and then you mention the oral summary of what you've said before, just above that. So let's go to slide 18. And here you see this is a very good example in which you can see paraphrasing here. So in the contrast of the reading passage, which emphasizes the blah blah quality, the professor disagrees. And this passage explains that you're giving a reason. He said that. What's more important? Again, you mentioned something, the second point, and then you are then he's actually disagreeing or agreeing. You're showing, having the contrast. Say if you look in the bold, however, the professor contradicts this by saying blah blah blah. She gives an example of this. She believes in that. So again, giving her opinion, having a second point of view from what you mentioned, and then you give a summary by saying, finally, in contrast to the reading passage claim, Rocco's style is not to elaborate, and then you mention, and then you give the overall idea of what you were mentioning before in the passage. Let's go to the writing independent task. On slide number 19. And here it should. This is an example question which you may be having in your exam, and it says, read the question below. You may have 30 minutes to plan. Write and revise your essay. A typically effective response will contain a minimum of 300 words. I do really recommend you do write 300 words. My recommendation will be to write about 380 to 400, around about 500. That will be a very good range of writing your answer, but don't write less than 300, because this is the minimum requirement. You may lose marks, you may not lose marks. I have no idea on that, but don't do this. I think this is they have mentioned it for a pretty good reason. So let's look at the template on what is in which format you should be answering the question, and look if that's on slide number 20. And if you look at the slide here, so at the first, you need to express your opinion. You need to give your examples, give reason, give second reason, add an emphasis, add a statement on reasons outlined. So you have to make a statement on the reasons you gave before. You have to give you have to also provide contrast. On the other hand, and if you look at it in a different way, something like that. However, nevertheless, extra clarification. Basically, that's kind of small paraphrasing on your part, just to make it easy for people to understand. So it says which means as, or in my words, or in other words. You basically say the same thing, but in a much easier way, so people can understand it. And then you have a conclusion. And here, if you look at the slide number 21, this is basically on that. So this will be the task in which you'll be like writing it down, and this is kind of the answer which is expected of you. So some people suggest that blah blah blah, and to the teenagers, things like that. And then if you read the whole slide, it's basically giving you a very good timeline and layout of what is expected for you to write down on the second task in order for you to write. Again, here you're utilizing the same skills what you learned for your reading skills. You've done the paraphrasing, you've done the main idea, you've done the gist, you have extracted the details, you've extracted examples, you've extracted information, and now you're laying it down, and you're giving your reason as to why you're writing it down in the way you did. So I think this is really important that you do follow the format, and in order for you to help you to actually write it down, I made a slide on what is academic writing. So if you go to slide number 22, here it's some of the features which you need to incorporate while you're doing academic writing. So the first one is it needs to be. This is something which you're expected to do in the first year of your university or for your postgraduate course. And that is the level of English you must be able to have in order for you to even begin the academic writing. So if I were you, I will choose a simple word, and you look for a higher meaning of the same words. If you wanted to actually look at, let's say, synonym of some word, let's just say, let's go to thesaurus.com here. I have the website open here. You put some word here, and then you look at and then you have a range bar on the left. It says easy complexity or higher complexity, and you choose a higher version of it, and it's going to give you some of the words which are not used so often, and they are being used, and you choose those words in your academic writing. It needs to be really complex. It can't be simple, easy to understand language, because that is not something you write on the first year of your university or making a thesis. It must be really formal. So you can't have informal, like, hey man, how's it going? Things like that. You can't be having that. It needs to be really formal setting. So it doesn't include expressions, and mainly it is using the passive voice to explain that. Then again, if you look at point 3, it is using passive voice, which I've just explained. That it needs to be highly precise. You must have a lot of extra precision in writing your academic writing while you're writing and explaining your answers, which effectively means that factual information, figures or charts must be mentioned in your text. In your answer, it should all be provided. Nothing written there should leave room for interpretation. You must not give a second chance. Any person to have a second guess in what you're writing, it may have a different meaning, basically. So you must leave nothing to chance. If you're writing something down, be very explicit, be very objective in writing it down, which is exactly what I mentioned. What I was trying to say, if you look at the point number 6, it says objectivity. This means that you need to be really objective and to the point. So don't go all over the tree in order to make a point. Just go directly to the point. Explain your opinion. Try to give the opinion. Go to the point of your writing directly, without taking extra words or trying to use a longer way to reach the point. Just go to the point, explain it, and it's done. Then the other one needs to be responsibility. Everything stated should be accompanied by proofs and justifications. That goes back to what we were discussing about laying down the reasons, explaining your reasons why. He said that because he thought that blah blah blah, as mentioned in the text. The text mentions A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and because of that he said blah blah blah. So again, you're mentioning the source, you are explaining your reasons why, and based on that, you're giving your text. So it's very responsible piece of information which has been mentioned. So again, make sure nobody should be able to have a second interpretation or a second guess from your text. It should be exact and to the point, which comes down to the last point. What I was trying to make is it needs to be explicit. So the author of the academic writing is responsible for making it explicit and for making clear how many different parts of the text are connected between them and why they are relevant for the central theme. Central theme is what? That's your gist. That's your main idea. That's the core idea of what you're expanding on. And this goes down to the reading skill what we had. This goes down to the writing task what you will be doing. In order for you to improve your writing, I have mentioned some sources which I use myself. Number 23, if you look at slide number 23, my best one is BBC Learning English academic writing. It's a very good source on how to begin and to improve and to actually get better, to excel in your academic writing. Then the site number 2 is also from the UK, the Royal Literary Fund. This explains you how to write an essay, what are the tools needed for you to write it. There's a very good online course from the Future Learn. Right now, I think I'm sure, or as I understand, most of them are from Moscow or from here in Russia. Most of you are at home at the moment due to the pandemic. So right now you may be having slightly more free time. This is your chance to do these online things and make the most of your time. So the futurelearn.com academic writing course is also pretty good for you to improve and to have a very good understanding of what that means. University of Berkeley, yeah, they have a very good source on academic writing on point 4. English for Academic Purposes, uefap.net. That's a pretty good source also for having an introduction to academic writing. What is academic writing? And they tell you how you can have it and improve it and keep on improving it. Last but not the least, if you look at number 6, it is a PDF document. It's a long PDF document. So if you wanted to have a handbook, basically, on how to improve your academic writing skills, that's the handbook you use. But you should only use this handbook as the last resort. If I were you, I would start from the BBC Learning English and also from the Future Learn course, which is a very good indication, and it's completely free. So you can use that to improve your writing. Let's go to the listening bit, which is on slide number 24. And here again, academic topics will be discussed. Nothing on an everyday basis. 3 to 4 lectures, 6 questions each. 2 to 3 discussions and 5 questions each on them, and the average time for each question is 35 seconds. Score is 0 to 30. And sorry, I have a question happening. Send links somewhere. Please send links somewhere. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I will send you out the PDF. It's not a problem. You'll be having this, so uh, don't actually worry about that. So let's go to the listening format and skills. Here it's an overview. So again, in a high score environment, I would say it's about 22 to 30. Intermediate is 15 to 21, and low is 0 to 14. And the time provided is between 41 and 57 minutes. That's the maximum time actually given to you. And the type of listening has changed also. So some of the listening tasks have changed since 2019, and this is the new listening format for TOEFL exam. So let's have a look. So you'll be having a lecture, basically, in an academic lecture. Discussions between 2 people in the like university, to one professor, one high school student, or one high school student talking to another high school student about what happened, what did they saw or learned. They will contain a lot of information. And the questions are based on the purpose, on the function, attitude, inference, organization, and what is the overall objective of what they were discussing. Here again, some of the skills what you have learned from the reading and from the writing skills will be used in for the listening skills. So let's have a look. So on the right, it says comprehension skills are needed, identifying factual information. And how do you do that? Is to extract information from that. So you must make notes. When you're listening, if you do want to get a higher mark, you must make notes. Identify, if you listen to any text or identification times, yesterday, tomorrow, day after, 2 p.m., 4 p.m., write those things down because it might be needed for that. You must have the ability to understand and recognize UK accent and US accent. So some may have a UK dialect, some may have a US dialect, but it's not 9 times out of 10. You will be able to understand every single thing which has been discussed, and you will not be having a problem. But again, for your own understanding, I would recommend that you have this understanding of what is a US accent and what is a UK accent. Understanding the gist and making a summary and understanding the tone. So some may have a very angry tone, happy tone, sad tone. You must be able to understand that, extract opinions from the text, from what people are saying, and also have the skill to make the summary. So how do we do it? Let's go to number 25. And here you see this is a sample exam MCQ task which is mentioned for the listening skill, and it says, what is the talk mainly about? And here, if you mainly about, so what is mainly about is asking for the overall meaning, having the key idea. Again, that's asking for the gist, right? So you must have the gist. If you understand the gist, then you know it's mainly the main idea is about A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. You take down the points. You take down that answer. Why does the woman go to see the professor? Again, that's like listening for details, extracting information. And once you get that, you can answer that question. Why does the professor change his mind when he will lend the woman the video? Why will be if you look at the number 9, it says, why will the woman stop the professor's office on Friday morning? Again, that's listening for information. That's listening for key details, right? So again, the skills you learn for reading task are being applied for the listening task. It's the same thing, but in a different way. If you then let's go to number 26. And I think this is the most like challenging part for most people is speaking. People really are afraid, and whenever they come to me say, Joshua, I can do very good in reading tasks, I can do very good in speaking, in writing tasks, listening tasks, but speaking is really difficult. I'm extremely nervous. I don't know how to say things properly. I know what to say, but when I'm under pressure, I really say the wrong thing, or I say it too fast and too slow, and I don't know what to say, because when you're really nervous, you really actually forget what you're saying, and you basically just like miss the point. So let's go down to the basics and how we can improve that. First of all, let's look at the overview of the listening task, and then we will go to how we can improve it. So the topic will be integrated and one independent. So basically, before we had 6 parts for speaking. Now we have only 4 parts for speaking. So we have 4 tasks. 3 of them are integrated, and 1 of them is independent. That's basically you and you alone. So you're by yourself. Again, the score is 0 to 30. The time is quite limited here. It's only 17 minutes. It's the shortest part of the exam. But again, just because it is the shortest, it doesn't mean it is the easiest. It's for some people, this is the hardest. Again, what are the types of things which you may be asked to explain? Is asking for personal opinion, interest, and also using the overall listening skills and the reading skills. 1 discussion and 1 lecture, which will be used for the integrated task. Listening, again, people talking to each other. What are the skills needed here? Again, you need to be quite fluent in the way you're speaking. Vocabulary range. You must think on your feet. You must be very objective and don't make extra sounds. So don't say ooh, ah, yeah, ooh. If you're to the point, try to come to the point directly. Intonation. So you must, if you want to put an emphasis on what you're saying, you must have the right intonation, not like blah 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 blah, blah and you say it in the same tone without making an intonation at all. You must go up and down to make to attract the focus of the person who's basically listening to you, for, so that you may be able uh, to actually give the main emphasis on what you're saying. Again, you must have the ability to understand and digress, and also to infer and understand the recognition of US and UK dialect, because some of the tasks, or some people may be talking, they may be from the UK, right? Or they may be from New Zealand, they may be from Australia. So you must be able to understand that. So let's look at the exam format. What's happening? Let's go to slide number 27. And here it says you have exactly 15 seconds to prepare and almost like 45 seconds to speak. Task one is independent, so it's basically you and you by yourself. So it could be like, please describe a reason about this. Some people like to say that. What do you think of this? So again, choose if let's look at the first one, task one, ABC. Choose one of the two. So you may have a question saying some people like to play outside, some people like to play inside the houses. If you were those people, what option would you choose and why? You have to give a reason. So that you begin to basically choose the option. If personally, if I had to choose something, I would be choosing this. Do not repeat the question, please. So don't repeat the whole question again. Don't do this. Just go and directly give your answer. Choose from either of the two options, give your reasons, list your reasons, and you will say like, that's because, and then the reason is, it's because, just firstly, more importantly, having said that, give examples. For example, for instance, let's really consider some of the introductory words we used for the exam. You need to to have a contrast. On the other hand, if I were to be outside, what would happen? Or if I were to playing inside, what would happen? Then you need to return to the main idea. So you say, okay, well, basically what I'm trying to say it is putting that, and then you go to your main idea, give the clarification, paraphrase it, and then you have to make a summary on that. So let's have a look at the as a sample answer what is expected of you. So if you see, many people think that, if this is on slide number 28, it says many people think that students learn course materials more effectively by taking exams, while others think that students learn more effectively by doing other activities like completing projects. Which one would you think? So you have two options here. Which one would you think is more effective? And here you'll say, well, I'd have to say that I feel students learn better by doing other activities, by taking these two exams. So you have or you're basically giving an introduction to what you're about to say. For one, if I was a student choosing, you have to choose your own opinion. You're giving your reasons why you've chosen that. If any time was an exam coming up, I would be doing this, day 2 or day 3. Then you give an example here by doing other activities like blah, 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 blah. And then you give that example, coming back to your main idea, and then you give your summary saying, these are the students, these are the reasons why I think students learn more effectively through other activities rather than exams. So this is a very good one-liner sentence which gives an overall summary to your first part of your speaking. Let's go to the second part. This is an integrated task, so you will be having a lecture, and then you'll be having a listening task. Here, most of the templates for both tasks are the same, task 2 and 3. There's a very small difference, and I'll be explaining that in the next slide. So again, you have to cite the source for the both tasks, task 2 and task 3, and then you have to give the reason of what they were saying. And you have to list the reasons. So if there are 2 reasons, you have to list like firstly, secondly, thirdly. You have to make a contrast, provide a clarification. Again, putting things in a different way, making a paraphrase, and then you need to make a summary. What changes in task 2, specifically in task 3, is mentioned on slide number 30. And here it says you need to provide an agreement or a disagreement, which is on task 2, and you need to give an opinion. You don't have to give an opinion on task 3. This is only required on task 2. And agreement and disagreement is not needed in task 3, it's needed in task 2. In task 3, you have to give an overview and give a reported example. Now, some of you may be thinking, like, how do I know whether do I have to give example, and how do I know that I don't have to give the example on task 2, but I have to give an example on task 3? How do I know I don't have to give an agreement or a disagreement on task 2, but on task 3? If you read the question again, that will tell you. That will tell you exactly what you have to answer. It's not difficult, and they are quite explicit, and they are quite to the point, so you will be understanding that. So if you look at slide number 31, and so this is a task 2. So the man expresses his opinion, blah blah blah, and he is holding that opinion. So you're giving the opinion. I've not mentioned the task here. This is just the answer. So here it says an increased amount of staff working in the library, and is the same, actually using the same format. And here you see in the middle it says he totally disagrees with the author. So again, you're having two discussions here. You have a student and you have somebody else, and they agree or disagree, and then you mention that. Go to task slide number 32, which is task 3, and the same. I've actually given you like a sample example, which is expected on task 3. Let's look at task 4, which is the last one, a speaking task on slide number 33. And this here you have to describe the entire situation. So the lecture talks. This is only listening task. So you have to like listen and then you have to speak. So this lecture talks about something. Cite the source. You have to give a comparison. You have to make a contrast, report example, and you have to make a summary as you would be doing for other tasks. An example of that is mentioned on on slide number 34, which is like a small template example of what you will be able to speak. Right, let's go to number 35, which is the most important part, is improving your fluency. You must be able to pronounce the words very carefully. So if I were you, I would focus on how the spelling of the word is, how the word is pronounced. If you're having difficulty on that, I will be using the international phonetic letters here. I'll give you an example how it looks like. If you go to tophonetics.com, tophonetics.com, and if you put in some of the words, it will tell you foo, fa, foo sound, high sound, hard sounds, soft sounds, and that way you can understand how the word actually sounds. This will really improve the way you speak. If you have a difficulty in speaking, and if you're putting extra pauses in the way you speak, I think it's better for you to learn how to sing. Singing is not part of the exam, but this is going to really help you in the way you speak. It's going to really apply extra pressure on your brain, so it will focus on what you're saying and singing it in tune. Last but not the least, you need to read it aloud. So if take any piece of news story, any piece of article, and read it aloud. Read it 200 times, 100 times, 50 times, as much as you can. If you will repeat something, you will get better at it. This is my only advice to improve your speaking. The last but not the least, we have number 36. We have a slide for a sample lesson plan. So a lesson plan which I would recommend is doing the test, the TOEFL test preparation 2 months before the exam. There's a link actually in the PowerPoint slide which you can download. I will send you this. I will ask you for your email address. I will show my email address to you, and then if you will email me, I will send you this PowerPoint presentation. And if you look at my lesson plan, if you look at slide number 37, it tells you that. So we have BBC 6 minutes vocabulary for 15 minutes, BBC grammar for 15 minutes, English stories for 30 minutes. This is for overall understanding and to improve your listening skills, and also for reading skills. And 2 times a week you have to write. So basically it's 1 hour of English every single day. How you do it is it's all mentioned in the PowerPoint, and I'll be sending it to you. Slide number 38. I've mentioned about 2-3 resources. for TOEFL exam, and then the same goes for slide number 39, which has some of the resources which are mentioned here. Um, you know, my last kind of advice for you to improve your TOEFL exam is don't memorize anything. Don't just go and do the exam papers all the time, because they're not going to help you. This is Exam papers only help you when you're ready, when you have all the skills ready, when you have done everything, you've done your homework, you are at upper intermediate level or at intermediate level. Then you sit and for the past exam papers, and then you do them. Before that, I will really focus on the overall English, overall understanding, how to improve your skills, how to improve your reading skills, writing skills, speaking skills. Focus on that. Repeat everything as much as possible, because the practice makes perfect. And once you're at a level where you know that, yeah, I can do it properly at New York Times level, go in and sit for your past exam papers and do the exam papers for TOEFL exam, and you know reasonably well that you'll be getting a very good mark. If you don't do this, and if you keep on doing past exam papers, knowing very well that your English is not at a very good level, you will just spend extra money and time. You will not get the marks needed, and you'll be unhappy. My recommendation would be, do your homework, have everything done, and then you sit for the past exam papers, and then you'll have a much better chance of actually getting an 89 or 100, and that's something you're happy about. And the final slide is not slide number, the end of the slide basically. It's thank you for your participation. My email address again is it's mentioned on the slide. Again, is if you don't have this, or if you are not able to see the slide, I can give you my email address here. It's joshualevy84@gmail.com. joshualevy84@gmail.com. Please do, if you have anything to ask, or if you're not sure about something, please do let me know, and I'll send you this PowerPoint. I think the AMC should be able to send it to you also. But if you have some doubts, if you want to ask me something, you have my email address. Again, last but not the least, thank you very much for being here with me. It's unfortunate that we have to do this thing online. We normally have to do it in person, but due to the overall pandemic happening, we have to do it online. But nevertheless, thank you very much. Please do be safe, and I wish you all the best for your TOEFL exam. If you have anything to ask me, or if you're not sure about, please do email me or write down your feedback comments, and I'll respond to you as soon as possible. Thank you.